The stars looked the same as they always did. Cold, distant, unchanging. Commander Hajin stood on the bridge of the research vessel Distant Memory and watched them through the viewport. He had been traveling through space for 20 cycles now, and the stars never surprised him anymore. "Commander, we're approaching the coordinates," said Captain Minho from the security station. His voice was flat, bored even. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Check out some old coordinates they found in wreckage. Take some readings. Go home. Dr. Yunji looked up from her console and her eyes were bright with excitement. She was always excited about old things, ancient civilizations, dead languages, stories that nobody believed anymore. The coordinates matched perfectly. Whatever sent that signal, it wanted to be found. Hajin nodded. The Galactic Coalition had been at peace for 3,000 cycles. 700 worlds, dozens of species all working together. It was boring mostly. Safe. The kind of boring that Hajin preferred after hearing stories about the old wars. The war against the Void Swarm had ended 5 centuries ago, and it had nearly destroyed everything. Entire sectors of space were still dead zones where nothing could live. "Bringing us out of faster-than-light travel," announced the pilot. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped back into normal space. What appeared before them made even Hajin step forward in surprise. A station. Massive. Floating in the darkness around a yellow star. It was unlike anything Hajin had ever seen. The design was strange. Angular in some places, curved in others. It looked old but not damaged. Like it had been waiting. "Scanning now," Yunji said, her fingers dancing across her console. "The station is still powered. Some systems are active. The materials are... I don't recognize half of these alloys. The technology is reading is more advanced than anything we have." Ambassador Jiwan moved closer to the viewport. She was the coalition diplomat assigned to their ship, usually quiet and proper. Now her face showed something Hajin rarely saw from her. Wonder. How is this possible? This sector was marked as empty. No one has claimed it. No one has explored it. "Because it's on the edge of everything," Minho said. "Past this, there's just dark space. Nothing out there but cold and death." Yunji pulled up readings on the main screen. "I'm detecting text symbols. Wait, I know these. I've seen them before in archaeological sites. These are human markings." The bridge went quiet. "Human." Minho said the word like it tasted bad. "Humans are myths. Stories we tell children. Stories based on something real," Yunji shot back. "Every species has legends about humans. Warriors who disappeared before the coalition was formed. The records say they were strange. Fragile bodies but incredible endurance. No natural armor but they healed fast. Emotional but calculating. Every battle report from the old wars mentions them, then suddenly they're just gone." Hajin had heard the stories. Everyone had. Humans were supposed to be the ghosts of the galaxy. Some said they ran away when the Void Swarm came. Others said they died fighting it. Most people just said they never existed at all. Just propaganda to make soldiers brave during desperate times. "Can we board the station?" Hajin asked. "Yes, Commander. The docking ports are compatible." "It's almost like they wanted coalition ships to be able to dock," Yunji said. They suited up and took a shuttle across. The station's docking bay opened for them automatically. The lights inside flickered on as they entered, sensing movement. Everything was clean, preserved. Like the people who built it had just stepped out for a moment and would be back soon. The corridors were strange. The ceilings were lower than what most coalition species needed. The doorways were narrow, built for smaller beings, Jiwan observed. They found a central chamber filled with technology. Weapons lined one wall, sleek, deadly-looking. Yunji approached a console and somehow managed to activate it. Holographic displays filled the air. Images, text, data. "This is incredible," she breathed. "These are cultural records, history, music, art, and this..." She pulled up a star chart. "This shows their territory. Hundreds of systems, all on the edge of known space." Minho picked up one of the weapons. It was lighter than it looked. Balanced perfectly. Why would they leave all this behind? Hajin examined the holographic displays. He saw images of humans now. Bipedal. Similar height to the Vryn like himself. Hair on their heads in different colors. Skin tones ranging from pale to dark. They looked ordinary. Not like the super warriors from the legends. But then Yunji found the battle records. The hollows showed humans fighting, moving, coordinating. They were fast. Not as fast as some species, but they never stopped. They took hits that should have killed them and kept going. In one recording, a human soldier with a broken arm continued fighting with the other arm. In another, a human pilot pulled flight maneuvers that should have knocked them unconscious from the force. But they kept flying. They're insane, Minho whispered. They're survivors, Yunji corrected. Warning lights suddenly blazed across the station. Red alerts flashed on every console. Hajin's communication device chirped. It was the distant memory. Commander, we're detecting massive readings at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Thousands of them. Hajin felt his blood go cold. Identify, there was a pause. A long, terrible pause. Sir, the signatures match records from 500 years ago. It's the Void Swarm, they're back, and they're heading toward Coalition core worlds. The bridge crew of the distant memory sent more data. The swarm was massive, bigger than any historical records showed. Ships that were more biological than mechanical. They consumed everything in their path. Entire planets. Whole fleets. Jiwan was already on her communicator, trying to reach Coalition High Command. They need to mobilize everything. Every fleet. Every defense station. The station's console in front of Yunji suddenly flared with light. A voice spoke. Mechanical. Old. But unmistakably an artificial intelligence. Warning. Hostile force detected. Swarm presence confirmed. Activating emergency protocols. Broadcasting distress signal. Wait, Yunji said. What distress signal to who? The AI didn't answer directly. Instead, it displayed a new hologram. A message in ancient human language. Yunji's translator device struggled with it, but eventually produced words. They went into the dark to hunt what hunts you. What does that mean? Minho demanded. The AI continued. Quantum distress beacon activated. Message sent. Response time estimated 48 hours. Recommendation. Evacuate all Coalition personnel from this sector. They will need space to work. Who will need space? Hajin asked. The AI's holographic display showed a symbol. A blue circle with green continents. Earth, the human homeworld from the legends. Humanity, the AI said simply. You called. They will answer. They always answer. The lights on the station suddenly grew brighter. Systems that had been sleeping for centuries roared to life. The whole structure hummed with power. Through the viewport, they could see weapon systems deploying from the station's exterior. Targeting systems coming online. Defensive shields generating. This station is preparing for war, Minho said. Hajin looked at the hologram of Earth, then at the warning about the Void Swarm approaching Coalition space. Humans were supposed to be legends, myths, stories to scare children and inspire soldiers. But this station was real. The technology was real. The weapons were real. And somewhere out in the dark space beyond the edge of the galaxy, something had just received a distress call. Get everyone back to the ship, Hajin ordered. We need to report this to High Command immediately. As they rushed back to their shuttle, Yunji took one last look at the station. Commander, what if the legends are true? What if humans didn't die out or run away? What if they've been out there this whole time? Hajin didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that the Void Swarm was coming, and something from the darkest edges of space had just been invited to help. He just hoped it was friend, and not something worse. Admiral Sunwoo didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in weapons, ships, strategy, things he could see and touch and use. So when Commander Hajin stood in front of the entire Coalition High Command and talked about humans and ancient stations and distress beacons, Sunwoo wanted to throw him out of the room. Let me understand this correctly, Sunwoo said, his voice hard. You found an old station. It had some technology. It sent a signal. And now you think mythical humans are going to save us from the Void Swarm? Hajin stood straight. Sir, the station was real. The technology was real. More advanced than anything we have. The AI was clear. It sent a distress call. To no one, another admiral interrupted. Humans don't exist. They never did. They were propaganda from the old wars, made up stories to keep soldiers fighting when things looked hopeless. Dr. Yunji stepped forward. She had requested to attend this meeting. With respect, admirals, every species in the Coalition has records of humans. Different records. From different time periods. They all describe the same things. The same physical characteristics. The same tactics. The same impossibly stubborn behavior in combat. Stories, Sunwoo said. Nothing more. Ambassador Jiwan spoke up. Then explain the station. Explain the technology that we can't replicate. Explain the AI that responded to the Void Swarm's approach. The room fell silent. No one had a good answer for that. Finally, the head of the coalition spoke. It doesn't matter. Real or not, we have a crisis. The Void Swarm is 3 weeks away from our outer colonies. We mobilize every fleet, every defense station. We fight them at the Corvin sector. We stop them there or we lose everything. The meeting ended. Orders went out across 700 worlds. Ships gathered. Soldiers prepared. The coalition was going to war, but Hodgin and his crew weren't done. They returned to the human station. Someone had to stay. Someone had to watch. If the humans were coming, someone needed to be there. Engineer Hiyori was excited about this. She loved technology, and the human station was full of it. She spent her days exploring the systems, trying to understand how they worked. Most of it was beyond her. The power generation alone was something she couldn't explain. It produced more energy than it should. Physics said it was impossible, but it worked anyway. That's very human, Yunji said when Hiyori mentioned it. All the records say they did impossible things regularly. On the 5th day, Hiyori made a mistake. She was examining a communications panel, trying to understand its design. She touched the wrong control. The panel lit up. Alarms blared through the station. What did you do? Minho shouted, running into the room. I don't know. I just touched it. The station's AI appeared on the nearest holographic display. Emergency beacon activated. Quantum signal broadcasting. Maximum power. I turn it off. Hajin ordered, cannot comply. Emergency protocols override all commands. The beacon will broadcast until help arrives or power is depleted. Yunji looked at the readings. It's broadcasting on frequencies we don't even use. Quantum entanglement communication. Instantaneous across any distance. If anyone is listening on these frequencies, they know exactly where we are. The beacon broadcast for 6 hours before it finally stopped. The sudden silence felt worse than the noise. Report this to High Command, Hajin said quietly. He did. Admiral Sunwoo was furious. You've probably just told the Void Swarm exactly where you are. Get out of there now. But Hajin delayed. One more day. Just one more. Something told him they needed to stay. Meanwhile, at the Corvin sector, the coalition fleet was assembling. Thousands of ships, every species represented. Admiral Sunwoo commanded from the flagship Eternal Vigilance. Tactical Officer Dane sat at his station, running simulations over and over. He was young, brilliant, but the simulations kept showing the same result. They were going to lose. Sir, the numbers don't work, Dane said quietly to Sunwoo. Even with every ship we have, the swarm outnumbers us 5-1. And they adapt. Whatever tactics we use, they learn and counter them. Then we make tactics they can't learn fast enough, Sunwoo replied. But even he didn't sound confident. The Void Swarm appeared on long-range sensors, a dark cloud moving through space. Organic ships that looked like a nightmare. They didn't communicate, didn't negotiate. They just consumed. 3 days before the battle would begin, the deep space monitoring stations detected something strange. Unusual readings on the edge of sensor range. Far beyond the swarm, behind it, what is that? Dane asked, pulling up the data. Sensor errors, probably, his supervisor said. But the readings continued. Ships. Dozens of them, no more than dozens. Coming out of dark space where nothing should be. Moving at speeds that should tear any vessel apart. Pulling flight maneuvers that would kill any crew from the forces involved. Get me Admiral Sunwoo, Dane said. On the flagship bridge, Sunwoo stared at the sensor data. Identify those ships. We can't, sir. They're not broadcasting any identification codes. They're not responding to hails. They're just moving, heading straight for the swarm's position. Are they coalition? No, sir. The designs don't match anything in our database. The signatures are all wrong. The energy readings are... They shouldn't be possible. Sunwoo felt something cold in his chest, a memory of Hajin's report. The human station. The distress beacon. It can't be, he whispered. Back at the station, Hajin watched his sensors go crazy. The distant memory detected the same ships the fleet was seeing. 47 vessels, all different sizes. Some small and fast, others massive and heavily armed. They moved in perfect formation. They're heading for the swarm, Yunji said. They're going to intercept it before it reaches the coalition fleet. The station's AI activated again. This time its voice sounded almost proud. Response received. Expeditionary force en route. Estimated time to contact with hostile force, 6 hours. Expeditionary force? Mignot asked. Whose expeditionary force? The AI displayed human symbols. Terran Defense Initiative. Hunter Fleet 7, they heard your call. They're coming. Terrans, Yunji breathed. That's what humans called themselves. People from Terra, from Earth, the ships kept coming. They passed within sensor range of the Coalition fleet. Admiral Sunwoo ordered all ships to hold position. Do not fire. Do not approach. Just watch. Dane got the first clear readings on one of the ships. Sir, these vessels are built for combat. Heavy armor. Weapons I don't recognize. And the hull plating, it's scorched, damaged, repaired over and over. These ships have seen serious fighting. How old are they? Based on the wear patterns. Centuries old, but maintained. Constantly upgraded. Sir, whoever is flying these ships has been in combat for a very long time. The human fleet ignored all Coalition attempts at communication. They had one target. The Void Swarm Hajin received a transmission directly to the station. A voice, speaking in ancient human language. His translator struggled with it. Coalition vessel. This is Commander Tajin of the Terran warship Indomitable. We received your distress call. We're handling the swarm. Keep your people clear. This is going to get messy. Wait, Hajin transmitted back. Who are you? Where did you come from? There was a pause. Then a different voice, younger, female. We're the ones from the scary stories. We're humans. We've been hunting these things for 500 years. Now get out of the way and let us work. The transmission cut off. The human ships accelerated, heading straight into the Void Swarm's path. 47 ships against thousands. They're insane, Minho said. They're going to die. Yunji watched the sensors. No, I don't think they are. On the flagship, Admiral Sunwoo stood frozen. Get me every sensor trained on that area. I want to see everything. Dane's hands moved across his console. Sir, the human ships are spreading out. They're forming an attack pattern I've never seen before. It's chaotic. There's no clear logic to it. How long until they make contact with the swarm? 3 minutes. The entire Coalition fleet watched. 700 worlds held their breath, and somewhere in the dark between stars humanity rushed into combat. The Void Swarm detected the approaching ships. It began to spread out, forming its own attack pattern. The dark cloud grew larger, ready to swallow these foolish vessels whole. Then the human fleet hit them, and everything changed. The first human ship to hit the Void Swarm line should have been destroyed instantly. Every tactical simulation said so. Every bit of military doctrine agreed. You don't charge directly into an enemy force that outnumbers you. But the humans did it anyway. The ship was small, fast. On its hull, Tactical Officer Dane could see the name through enhanced sensors. Wildfire. It screamed toward the swarm at speeds that made his eyes water. Then, at the last possible moment, it twisted. The maneuver was impossible. The forces involved should have turned the crew into paste, but the ship spun, fired every weapon it had into the swarm's front line and shot past before the swarm could react. 3 swarm ships exploded. The wildfire kept going, looping around for another pass. Did you see that? Dane shouted. Did anyone see that? Admiral Sunwoo stared at his displays. That pilot should be dead. Those forces should have killed them. Humans, Dr. Yunji said from the distant memory watching the same battle. The records say they can withstand forces that would kill most species. Something about their biology, the way their blood moves, how their bodies are built. The rest of the human fleet followed the wildfire's lead, but each ship did something different. There was no standard formation, no predictable pattern. Some ships charged straight in. Others came from angles that made no tactical sense. A few pulled back at the last second, making the swarm waste its fire. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. They fight like they're insane, Minho said. No, Commander Hajin corrected. They fight like they're creative. The swarm learns patterns, adapts to them. But how do you adapt to something that has no pattern? A squadron of human fighters launched from one of the larger ships. 6 small craft, so small they barely registered on sensors. A voice came across the open communication channels. Young, female, excited. This is Nari, fighter lead. All wings go free. Make them chase you, the fighters scattered. Each one moving independently. They dove into the swarm like insects, too small and fast to hit easily. But their weapons weren't small. Each shot from their guns burned through swarm armor like it wasn't there. The swarm tried to swarm them. Hundreds of smaller swarm craft launched to chase the fighters. It should have worked. The swarm had numbers. The fighters were alone. But then the larger human ships opened fire. They're using their own fighters as bait, Dane realized. They're making the swarm cluster together, then hitting them while they're focused on the fighters. It was brutal, efficient, and it worked. The swarm lost 100 ships in the first 5 minutes. The humans lost nothing, but the swarm was learning. It started to spread out, stopped chasing the fighters, began targeting the larger human ships with concentrated fire. A human vessel took a direct hit. Its shields flared and died. The hull breached in 3 places. Atmosphere vented into space. "They're done," Sunwoo said, but the ship kept fighting. Through the sensors, Dane could see crew members in spacesuits working on the hull, welding plates while under fire, sealing breaches with their hands. The ship's weapons never stopped firing. "That's the Indomitable," Yunji said. "Commander Taejin's ship." "The one that sent us the transmission?" Taejin's voice came across the open channels, calm, almost casual. "Engineering, I need power to forward guns." "I don't care where you get it. Life support if you have to," another voice responded. Younger, stressed. "Sir, if we cut life support, half the ship will suffocate in 20 minutes. Then we better win in 19 minutes. Do it." The Indomitable blazed with weapon fire, every gun on the ship shooting at once. The power usage was so high that Dane could see the ship's other systems failing on his displays. But those weapons carved through the swarm like a knife through flesh. 5 more swarm ships died. Nari's fighter squadron was running low on ammunition. She reported it casually like she was ordering lunch. Fighter lead to Indomitable. "We're Winchester. Coming in for rearm." "Negative," fighter lead. "No time, do attack runs. Use your ships as weapons if you have to." There was a pause. Then Nari laughed. Actually laughed. "Understood. All fighters arm ramming protocols. Let's make this interesting." "They're not actually going to ram the swarm ships," Minho said. "That's suicide." The fighters accelerated, heading straight for the largest swarm vessels. At the last second, they fired their emergency thrusters. The fighters spun, using the swarm ship's own hulls to slingshot around them. As they passed within meters of the swarm vessels, they dropped mines. Small explosive charges that stuck to the swarm hulls with magnetic clamps. The fighters shot past. The mines detonated. 10 swarm ships broke apart. "They're insane," Sunwoo whispered. But there was respect in his voice now. The battle continued for hours. The humans never stopped moving, never held still. Every time the swarm thought it understood their pattern, the humans changed it. A human ship would appear to retreat, drawing swarm ships after it. Then 2 other human ships would appear from different angles and catch the swarm in a crossfire, or human ships would group together, looking vulnerable. The swarm would mass to attack. Then the humans would scatter at the last second, and the swarm ships would crash into each other. It was warfare like nothing the Coalition had ever seen. But the humans were taking damage. Real damage. Ships were breaking. Systems were failing. Crews were dying. A medical channel opened by accident. The Coalition heard a human medic working. His voice was steady as he gave orders. "Junho here. I need pressure on that wound." "No, more pressure. I don't care if it hurts. You want to die or you want to live?" "That's what I thought. Now hold still." Dane pulled up video from inside one of the human ships. What he saw made him feel sick. The human medic, Junho, was performing surgery in 0 gravity. The ship was spinning out of control from damage. Debris was floating everywhere, and Junho was cutting into a wounded crew member, trying to save their life while both of them tumbled through the air. "How is he doing that?" Dine asked. "Training," Hodgin said quietly. "Or maybe they're just that stubborn." The battle reached hour 6. The swarm had lost over 400 ships. The humans had lost none, but all their ships were damaged. Some were barely holding together. The Indomitable was the worst. Half the ship was gone. The bridge was exposed to space. Commander Taejin was in a spacesuit now, directing the battle from a chair that was welded to the deck because the gravity systems had failed. "All ships, form up on me," Taejin ordered. "We're breaking through their center line. One more push. Make it count." The human fleet gathered. 47 ships, all wounded. All still fighting, they accelerated together. Heading straight into the heart of the swarm, Admiral Sunwoo stood up. "They're going to break through." Against those odds, with those damages, they're actually going to break through. Ambassador Jiwan appeared on Hajin's communication screen. She was crying. They came. They really came. Just because we asked for help. The human fleet hit the swarm's center like a hammer. Weapons firing. Ships ramming. Fighters using their last missiles. And the swarm's center line shattered. A gap appeared. Clear space through the middle of the swarm formation. The human fleet shot through it. Weapons blazing in every direction. On the other side, they reformed. Turned around. Ready for another pass. Taejin's voice came across every communication channel. Strong, sure, directed at the coalition fleet. Coalition forces, this is Commander Taejin. Keep your people safe. Pull back to defensive positions. We'll handle the rest. It's what we do. It's what we've always done. There was a pause. Then he added softer. Besides, we heard children crying in your distress call. Across the quantum bands, clear as day. And humans have a rule. Just one rule that matters. We don't let children get hurt. Not while we're still breathing. Admiral Sunwoo looked at his fleet. At the hundreds of coalition ships sitting safely behind the battle. At the 47 human ships broken and bleeding preparing to charge back into the swarm. He made a decision. All ships, Sunwoo said. Forward. We're going in, sir. Dine looked shocked. Those people are dying for us. For species they don't even know. I won't sit here and watch. Take us in. The coalition fleet moved forward. For the first time in 500 years, humans and the coalition fought side by side, and the swarm began to understand what fear felt like. The coalition fleet joining the battle changed everything. Suddenly, the swarm faced not just 47 insane human ships, but thousands of coalition vessels as well. The odds shifted, not enough to guarantee victory, but enough to give hope. Admiral Sunwoo's flagship moved into formation beside the crippled Indomitable. The contrast was striking. The coalition ship was pristine. Shields at full power, all systems working perfectly. The human ship looked like it had been through a war. Because it had. 500 years of war. Commander Taejin, this is Admiral Sunwoo. We're here to support you. Taejin's response came through a damaged communication system, full of static. Appreciated, Admiral. Fair warning, though. We fight different than you're used to. Try to keep up. If it was meant as an insult, Sunwoo didn't take it that way. He smiled. We'll do our best. The combined fleet hit the swarm again. This time, the coalition ships followed the humans' lead. When a human ship dove into the swarm formation, coalition ships covered its flanks. When human fighters needed time to rearm, coalition point defense systems kept the swarm off them. It was messy, chaotic. Nothing like the organized battle plans the coalition preferred. But it worked. Tactical Officer Dane was working harder than he ever had in his life. Trying to predict what the humans would do next was impossible, so he stopped trying. Instead, he just reacted. A human ship would suddenly break formation and charge into danger, and Dane would immediately reroute coalition ships to support it. They're teaching us, he realized. Every insane thing they do, they're teaching us how to fight unpredictably. Lieutenant Keon was documenting everything. He was a coalition observer, assigned to record the battle for historical purposes. But what he was seeing was beyond anything in the history books. He watched a human soldier in a damaged suit working on the outside of their ship. Under fire, a swarm weapon hit near them and the force threw them into space. They were tumbling away from their ship and Keon thought they were dead. But the human activated their suit thrusters, corrected their spin, and used the momentum to throw themselves at a nearby swarm ship. They landed on its hull, planted an explosive charge, and then used the explosion itself to push back toward their own ship. That shouldn't be possible, Keon said into his recording device. The timing required. The calculation. The sheer courage. I'm watching it happen and I still don't believe it. Inside the Indomitable, Medic Junho was running out of supplies. He had saved 12 lives in the past 6 hours. Now he was working on the 13th. Commander Taejin himself. Taejin had taken shrapnel when a console exploded. He should have been in medical bay. Instead, he was still on the bridge directing the battle while Junho worked on him right there in his command chair. This is going to hurt, Junho said. Everything hurts. Just get it done. Junho pulled out a piece of metal the size of his finger from Taejin's side. Blood floated in the zero gravity. Junho sealed the wound with a medical foam that hardened instantly. You should rest, Junho said. I'll rest when we're done. Taijin looked at his tactical display. All ships, the swarm is trying to flank us. Swing around and hit them from above. And someone get me power to the main cannon. I don't care if you have to pedal a bicycle to generate it. From the distant memory, Dr. Yunji was watching everything. Recording. Learning. She opened a channel to one of the human ships, a smaller vessel called Last Stand. This is Dr. Yunji of the Coalition research vessel Distant Memory. I have to ask, why are you doing this? You don't know us. We're strangers to you. Why risk your lives? The response came from a tired-sounding woman. This is Captain Soman of the Last Stand. You really want to know? Because 500 years ago, we let the swarm slip past us. It hit Coalition space. Billions died. We've been hunting the swarm ever since, making sure it never happens again. We heard your distress call. Heard the fear in it. What were we supposed to do? Ignore it? But you've been fighting alone for centuries. Why didn't you ask for help? Because there's worse things than the swarm in dark space. Things we don't want getting into populated areas. We've been holding the line. Keeping the nightmares away from your children. That's the job. We do it because someone has to. Yunji felt tears on her face. The legends never mentioned that. They just said you were warriors. We're not warriors, Soman said gently. We're just people who can't walk away when someone needs help. It's a human thing. A curse, maybe, but it's who we are. The battle entered its second day. Yes, day. 30 hours of continuous combat. Most species would have collapsed from exhaustion. Most crews would have given up. The humans kept fighting. Coalition crews watched in amazement as human soldiers worked shifts. Some would fight for 8 hours, then sleep for 4, then fight again. No breaks. No rest beyond what was absolutely necessary. A human fighter pilot named Nari had been flying for 22 hours. Her fighter was held together with emergency patches and prayers. She should have been hallucinating from fatigue. Instead, she shot down her 50th swarm fighter and requested permission to continue. Nari, this is indomitable. You need to dock and rest. With respect, Commander, I can sleep when I'm dead, and I'm not planning on dying today. She dove back into the fight. Admiral Sunwoo was beginning to understand something. The humans weren't just skilled fighters. They were showing the Coalition something deeper. What it meant to truly commit to a fight. To give everything and then find more to give. He watched a human crew abandon their dying ship. They could have evacuated safely. Instead, they set their ship on a collision course with a swarm capital ship, manually flying it the whole way to make sure it hit the target. They ejected at the last second. Their ship crashed into the swarm vessel and both exploded. The human crew radioed for pickup, casual as anything. This is the crew of Defiance. We need a ride. Our ship got used up, like it was a tool, a resource to be spent. They truly will give anything to win, Sunwoo said. Dane nodded. The question is, can we learn to do the same? The swarm was adapting, changing its tactics. But every time it adapted to one human strategy, the humans would do something completely different. Sometimes they would organize into tight formations. Other times they would scatter completely. Sometimes they would focus fire on one target. Other times they would shoot at everything. There was no pattern because there was no doctrine. Every human captain was making independent decisions, reacting to the moment, creating art out of chaos. Ambassador Jiwan was coordinating relief efforts. Human ships that were too damaged to fight would pull back, and Coalition repair vessels would meet them. The human crews would help with repairs on their own ships, working alongside Coalition engineers. Your ships are incredible, one Coalition engineer said to a human. But why are they so old? Why not build new ones? The human, a young woman covered in grease and scars, smiled tiredly. These ships have history. They've kept us alive for 500 years. We rebuild them, upgrade them, honor them. They're more than metal. They're family. By hour 48, the swarm had lost over half its forces, but the humans had taken casualties too. 3 ships had been destroyed completely. Every other ship was badly damaged. Crews were exhausted beyond measure, but they weren't done. Commander Taijin called for a final push. All human vessels, this is indomitable. The Swarm Queen ship is at the center of their formation. If we take it out, the rest will fall apart. It's going to be a rough run. Who's with me? Every human ship responded. 44 ships, all damaged, all tired, all ready. We're with you, Coalition ships replied too. Hundreds of voices. Different species, all united. Taijin looked at his tactical display. At the impossible odds. At the plan that was more suicide than strategy. He smiled. Then let's go teach the swarm why you don't mess with people's children. All ships forward. Let's end this. The combined fleet charged toward the swarm's heart. Toward the Queen's ship. Toward victory or death. And in that moment, watching them go, Lieutenant Keon whispered into his recorder. This is what legends are made of. This is what humanity means. Not perfection. Not fearlessness. Just the absolute refusal to quit when people need you. The final battle was about to begin. The Swarm Queen ship was massive, larger than any vessel in the Coalition fleet. It sat at the center of the swarm formation like a dark heart, protected by thousands of smaller ships. Getting to it would require running through a wall of weapons fire that could destroy entire fleets. Commander Tajin looked at it on his display and made a decision. Indomitable will lead the charge. We'll take the heaviest fire. The rest of you follow in our wake. Admiral Sunwoo immediately objected. Commander, your ship is barely holding together. Let us take the lead. With respect, Admiral, your ships are too valuable. You have homes to return to, families waiting. We've been away from home for 500 years. What's a few more minutes? Tajin's voice was calm, accepting. Besides, we're used to this. Trust me. Before Sunwoo could argue further, the Indomitable accelerated. The crippled ship somehow found more speed. Its damaged engines burned brighter than they should. The crew was pushing everything beyond safe limits. All human ships follow the Indomitable, Tajin ordered. Coalition fleet, cover our flanks. Don't let anything past us. The charge began. The swarm opened fire with everything. Energy weapons that could melt through shields. Projectile weapons that punched through armor. Biological weapons that ate through metal. The space between the fleet and the Queen ship became a storm of death. The Indomitable flew through it all. Shields failed in the first 30 seconds. Armor burned away. Hull breaches appeared faster than the crew could seal them. But the ship kept going. Inside, Medic Junho was thrown against a wall as the ship shook. He got up, blood running down his face, and went back to treating wounded crew members. Forget the pain. Focus on breathing. That's all that matters right now. Just keep breathing. Pilot Nari's fighter was hit. Her left wing was gone. Half her systems were dead. She could barely control the craft. But she kept flying, using her damaged fighter to shoot down swarm weapons that were targeting the larger ships. Every missile she destroyed was one less threat to her friends. Nari, eject. Your fighter is done, someone shouted over the communication channel. Not yet. Still got guns. Still got targets. She fired again. Another swarm missile exploded. The Coalition fleet poured fire into the swarm forces from the sides. Admiral Sunwoo directed his ships with precision, creating gaps in the swarm's formation that the human ships could use. Tactical Officer Dane was working so fast his fingers were cramping, but he didn't stop. They're going to make it, Dane whispered. They're actually going to reach the Queen ship. But the swarm wasn't finished. The Queen ship itself opened fire, a weapon the Coalition had never seen before. A beam of pure energy that could cut through any ship like paper. It targeted the Indomitable. Tajin saw it coming. There was no way to dodge. No time to raise shields they didn't have anyway. He opened the ship-wide communication channel. It's been an honor serving with you all. Tell Earth we did our job. The beam fired. Another human ship threw itself into the beam's path. The last stand, Captain Soman's vessel. It took the hit meant for the Indomitable. The ship came apart under the weapon's power. But it bought time. Precious seconds. Soman, Tajin shouted. Get the Queen ship, Tajin. That's an order. And don't you dare waste my ship's sacrifice. Soman's voice was calm even as her vessel died around her. Tell the Coalition we're the friendly ghosts. The ones who watch over them. The last stand exploded, but escape pods launched. Soman and her crew would survive. The Indomitable reached the Queen ship's perimeter. Too close for the massive energy weapon to target them now. Tajin looked at his remaining crew. 20 people, out of an original crew of 200. Load every torpedo we have. Manual targeting. Fire when ready. Sir, the launch system is damaged. We can't launch them electronically, Tajin smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. Then we launch them manually. Engineering, can we override the safeties? Fly this ship into the Queen ship and detonate everything at once? There was silence. Then Engineer Hayori's voice came over the communication channel. She had been evacuated from the human station days ago and had joined the Indomitable's crew. Sir, if we do that, there's no escape pods left. No way off the ship. You'll die. I know. But everyone else lives. That's the trade. I'll take it. No. The voice was Admiral Sunwoo's. His flagship had pushed through the swarm lines following the human ships. Commander Tajin, you've done enough. My ship will make the final run. You've earned your rest. Can't let you do that, Admiral. You don't have a choice. Coalition ships concentrate all fire on the Queen ship's defenses. Clear a path for the flagship. The Coalition fleet responded instantly, thousands of ships firing at once. The swarm's defenses were overwhelmed. A clear path opened to the Queen ship's core. Tajin watched his display. Watched the Coalition ships sacrifice themselves to create this opening. Ships exploding to take down swarm defenses. Crews dying to protect others, they learned, Tajin said softly. They learned what it means to give everything. But the path wouldn't last long. Already the swarm was adapting, closing the gap. Nari, Tajin said into his communication device. You still flying? Barely, why? I need you to do something crazy. My favorite kind of order. Tajin explained his plan. It was insane, impossible, exactly the kind of thing humans were known for. Nari laughed. Let's do it. Her damaged fighter accelerated. She flew straight toward the Queen ship, dodging weapons fire that should have destroyed her 100 times over. She reached the Queen ship's hull and attached the last of her explosives to a critical section. Then she jumped out of her fighter, in just a spacesuit. No ship, no safety line. In the middle of a massive space battle, Commander Tajin brought the Indomitable close. Incredibly close. The two vessels were almost touching.
Jump, Nari.
Now, she jumped, flew through space on suit thrusters. Hands reached out from the Indomitable's damaged airlock. Caught her. Pulled her inside. Her fighter exploded against the Queen ship's hull. The explosion was small, but it was exactly where it needed to be. A critical power junction failed. The Queen ship's shields dropped. All ships fire everything. Admiral Sunwoo ordered. Every weapon from every ship fired at once. Human weapons. Coalition weapons. Everything they had left. The Queen ship's armor held for 3 seconds. Then it cracked. Then it shattered. Then the entire massive vessel began to come apart. Tajin didn't wait to watch. All ships pull back. That thing is going to explode and it's going to be big. The fleet retreated. Human and Coalition ships alike, flying away as fast as damaged engines could move them. The Queen ship exploded. The blast wave caught the trailing swarm ships and destroyed them instantly. The remaining swarm forces, without their queen to coordinate them, began to scatter. Fleeing into dark space, human ships that weren't too damaged gave chase. They would hunt the swarm, make sure it didn't regroup. It's what they did. But most of the human fleet was too damaged to continue. They limped back toward the Coalition lines. The Indomitable was moving on emergency thrusters alone. Tajin was still in his command chair. He had passed out from blood loss at some point. Medic Junho was working on him, trying to keep him alive. Don't you die on me, Commander. We didn't come this far to lose you now. Coalition medical ships rushed forward to help. The human crews were evacuated to Coalition vessels with proper medical facilities. Doctors and medics worked side by side to save human lives. Dr. Yunji met with Captain Soman, who had been rescued from her escape pod. The human captain was in a medical bed recovering from injuries, but she was alive. I need to ask, Yunji said. Everything we thought we knew about humans. Was it true? Soman thought about it. Depends on what you thought you knew. That you're warriors, unstoppable, fearless. Then no. We're not fearless. I was terrified every second of that battle. We're not unstoppable. Look at our ships. Look at our casualties. We can definitely be stopped, Soman paused. But what is true? We don't give up. Can't seem to help it. Something in our nature. We see someone who needs help and we can't walk away. Doesn't matter if it's smart. Doesn't matter if it's safe. We just can't do it. Why did you go into dark space? Why hunt the swarm alone for 500 years? Soman smiled tiredly. Because we found something worse than the swarm out there. Something that makes the swarm look like a small problem. We've been fighting it. Keeping it contained. Making sure it never reaches populated space. When we heard your distress call, we had to come. The thing we're fighting in dark space will wait. Children in danger won't. Ambassador Jiwan entered the medical bay. The Coalition High Command wants to speak with you. Officially. An hour later, Captain Soman stood before the Coalition Council via holographic communication. She was bandaged and tired, but she stood straight. The head of the Coalition spoke. Captain Soman, on behalf of 700 worlds, we thank you. Humanity saved us. After 500 years of silence, you returned exactly when we needed you most. We never really left, Somin said. We were always out there, watching the borders, keeping the nightmares away. The Coalition formally requests that humanity join us. Take your place among the member species. Help us build a better future. Somin was quiet for a moment. We accept. But we have conditions. Our fleet stays independent. We continue our mission in dark space, and we train your people. Teach them to fight the way we fight.